Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. Got you covered. Traditional league, dynasty league, PPR league, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right, now, thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Today, I'm your host, Tate, and today we're going to be talking about the NFL and the NFL offseason. There's been a lot of big moves and a lot of changes, and we're going to talk about it. There's a lot of guys and that you're used to having on one team. They're no longer there. So we're going to talk about the acquisitions or the free agency move that will impact your team and your fantasy football team for this upcoming 2017-2018 season. So we're going to start off. We're going to jump right in it, and we're going to start off by addressing the number 15 most impactful move. And that move goes to the Baltimore Ravens. They acquired Danny Woodhead, a longtime San Diego Charger, an all-purpose back. And, I really think he is a perfect fit for Baltimore and what Baltimore is looking to do. It gives them an extra weapon where they weren't able to really get the running game going, but they have a lot of young running backs that they can actually take, that they can use, from Terrence West, the Dixon. And so when you look at, who's going to be the running back, that third down, even first down type scenario, you have a running back that can be in the slot. He can run the ball. He's a running back and a wide receiver all in one. And the fact is, a lot of times in San Diego, depending on how Baltimore uses him, in San Diego, a lot of defenses would lose track of where he's at and he would end up coming open. Great guy for moving the chains, getting first downs, short yardage situations. He's that guy that I think can actually put Baltimore in a really good situation, especially in the division that they're in. Pittsburgh's a year older. Cleveland is still lost down down a lot. I mean, no one knows what Cleveland's doing right now. And then you have the Bengals, who think they're going to be back, and a lot of the players are saying, they're going to be back to their old ways, but that's not a guarantee. This division is wide open, and adding Danny Woodhead is that one player that could actually put Baltimore back into the playoff hunt. So I really like the move by picking him up. My number 14 move was with the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota is a tough, hard-nosed team, but they've lost their bell cow. They lost Adrian Peterson, and that's huge shoes that you have to fill. And what they did was they went out and they drafted a young running back as in Cook, but the big move on offseason was picking up Latavius Murray. You can have Cook and Murray work as that tandem backfield. You could have Latavius handle a lot of goal line situations. He's going to be healthy and fit this year. I know he had some health issues last year, but everything that I'm hearing, he's in excellent condition and ready to go. And so I really like this move. If you're gonna, it's unfortunate to lose an Adrian Peterson. That's what you're not gonna get Adrian Peterson back. So you have to pick up a poor man's Adrian Peterson, and I think that's what they were kind of going for. By you're not gonna get one back that's gonna replace Adrian, but bringing in Murray and drafting Cook is that move that I think can really help them get over the top. Next, we're going to roll on into the Chicago Bears. And this is a new look Chicago Bears, where no longer the Jay Cutler era. It's over. Jay Cutler is no longer going to be the guy who, I guess, the whipping boy of the Chicago Bears, where everything gets blamed on him. I never thought he makes a lot of mistakes, but a lot of the things that he was blamed for, I never thought was really his fault. But they went out and they brought in Markus Wheaton, and partially because of the fact that they've had a lot of inconsistency in the receiving game, and they brought in another guy who can actually, can be a solid wide receiver to take a lot of pressure off of their team. I don't really see them making a major run this year. I think that division belongs to Green Bay and Minnesota. So this is kind of a situation, kind of a stopgap. They're going to have to make a lot more moves before they're ready to contend for even any of those playoff spots. But it's a good move. I think it's a move that can move them in a positive direction and take a little pressure off of them. But as a whole, it's number 13 strictly because of the fact that I don't think it's a big enough move to move them into the playoff picture. So it makes them, it gives them a go-to receiver that they can hit. But it's Chicago, and it's gonna be a long season for Chicago. Now I'm gonna move on, and I kind of rip through the first three kind of fast. This next one I really, really like. This is number 12, and this is Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They signed DeSean Jackson. Now, I like this strictly because of the fact that you have Jameis Winston, who kind of came of his own this last season. He's making that, and I predict he's going to make that step into being one of the top echelon quarterbacks this year. This is I think will be his coming out year. He has Mike Evans on one side, and what Tampa Bay has done is added that speedster on the outside to keep defenses honest. You can't just crowd the box, or you can't just double team Mike Evans and think you're going to be okay. By adding DeSean is that guy that can really take the lid off of a defense. I think it's a fantastic move. They're going to be, Tampa Bay is going to be a much healthier team this year, and this could be the year that they really make a shot at the playoffs here and make a real tough run. So I really like that move of bringing in DeSean Jackson. So we're going to move on. And our next person that we're going to talk about is a guy that kind of had a breakout year last year. The only problem with this breakout year was it was at a place where no one really paid attention. That was Terrelle Pryor. Terrelle Pryor had an amazing year last year. One of the top fantasy point getters out there. It didn't really have a big impact on Cleveland because, Cleveland had the worst record in the league. But this time, he signed with Washington. Washington is a true playoff contending team in a very tough division. They needed to make this move because of the fact that they're going to have to outscore some pretty potent offenses this year. They're going to have to play Dallas twice, and they're going to have to play Philadelphia, and then the Giants are looking really tough on offense. So I think this was a good move on their part, just to add a receiver that can get in there, score, make a major impact on the team, keep defenses honest. So that was my number 11th pick for the best offseason moves. When we come back, we're going to talk about the top 10 best offseason moves. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, we're back, and we were covering the best offseason moves, free agent moves of this season, and we covered our first 5 of the 15, and that was the number 15 best move was the Baltimore Ravens signing Danny Woodhead. Number 14 was the Minnesota Vikings, after losing Adrian Peterson, signing Latavius Murray and drafting Cook. I think that was a good move on their part. It's hard to make up for losing an Adrian Peterson, but with him being out most of last year, it's not as impactful, or as it's not going to be so hard to miss Adrian Peterson or have Adrian Peterson be gone because of the injury that he had last year. Number 13 was the Chicago Bears signing Markus Wheaton. No more Jay Cutler, but they did bring in a good wide receiver that can really move the chains. Number 12 was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers signing DeSean Jackson. Having Mike Evans on one side and DeSean Jackson on the other side really makes that Tampa Bay offense something to pay attention to, especially with the fact that I think that Jameis Winston is going to have a breakout year. Number 11 is the Washington Redskins signing Terrelle Pryor. That was a big loss for Cleveland. Losing, I thought for sure Cleveland would do whatever they could to re-sign Terrelle Pryor, but I was really surprised that he went to Washington. I think it's a better move for him because Washington's going to be contending for the playoffs, and Cleveland's going to be contending for that first overall pick. I think they'll be contending with San Francisco, to be honest with you. So now we're going to break into that top 10 of best offseason moves. And my top 10 list may be a little different than some, but this is definitely my take. And my number 10 move is the Seattle Seahawks signing Eddie Lacy. Last year, the one thing that Seattle I thought was missing was they didn't really have a running back that really made a real impact. Thomas Rolls just didn't quite pan out. Posey didn't pan out. And Eddie Lacy, I think, in Green Bay, he had a spectacular late year, then he had a down year, and then he kind of came up a little bit last year. This is I think the situation where Seattle needed a running back that can handle goal line situations, and Eddie Lacy needed a change of scenery. I think this is going to be a really good pickup. I think Eddie Lacy has a lot to prove, and I think he really wants to. He had some problems with his weight. I think he has that under control. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he responds to being on Seattle. Seattle, I think, will use him, the way he needs to be used. I think Pete Carroll's one of those guys that can actually really get the most out of him, and I think it's a good fit. So I really think that's my number 10 best offseason move there. And I'm moving on to, as we're talking about Eddie Lacy leaving Green Bay, my number 9 move is the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay, anytime you have Aaron Rodgers, you're a dangerous team. Green Bay is always going to be contending for the playoffs. But the one move I think they went out and did was they went out and picked up Martellus Bennett. And Martellus is that wide receiver, he's not wide receiver, the tight end that can be Aaron Rodgers' safety blanket. Aaron Rodgers likes to spread it around. He likes to scramble, but when the pressure's on, he has a very sure-handed, big, strong tight end that he can dump the ball off to. I think Martellus Bennett is in one of the best situations. And it's rare that you can situation where you can look around and say, I'm going to give up Tom Brady as my quarterback, and maybe upgrade. Because, in New England, Martellus was always going to be the number 2 option. Now he has that chance to be a star, and that's what Martellus really wants to do. Is he wants to be a star. He wants to be appreciated, and so this is that situation where he's going to be that number 1 tight end and a big part of that passing game. And so I really like this move. I think you have a situation where he could be that move that is enough to really put Green Bay on the map and seriously contend for a playoff and a Super Bowl berth. I'm not picking them right now to go to the Super Bowl, but I am looking at them as a team that will make the playoffs and will contend for that playoff spot. Now, I'm going to go to my number 8 guy. This guy can be unbelievable at times. He can be, he's a really good, I think he's a fantastic wide receiver. I think he's just been in a bad place in Chicago, and that's Alshon Jeffery. I think him going to the Philadelphia Eagles, that's our number 8 move. When you have a young quarterback like Philadelphia has, it's smart to bring in some weapons around him. And this is one of those guys where bringing a weapon in like Alshon Jeffery, a guy that your quarterback can trust and depend on, is huge. I think it's the right move. The tough thing about this situation for Philadelphia is they're in that NFC East where they are going to have to run into the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Redskins. And when I look at them right now, I have them as that number 4 team. So I don't really have them contending for the playoff spot right now. But I think Alshon Jeffries is that guy that can really help your young quarterback move to that next level to keep improving. So I think it's a really good, smart move. Alshon Jeffries will, as far as fantasy goes, I think this will be a breakout year for him for fantasy. Maybe not as far as wins for the Eagles as a whole, but I think the big picture is progressing their young quarterback on. And I think, Alshon Jeffries is that wide receiver as far as fantasy goes that you could actually draft in a later round without getting number 1 value in a later round. I think he's that guy. So he's my number 8 move. And then I'm going to move on to number 7. And the whole saying, the rich gets richer. This is no joke. The rich are getting richer. My number 7 move is the New England Patriots trading for Dwayne Allen. They lost Martellus Bennett, but they have Gronk. But the one thing that when New England's moving on, is like running on all cylinders, and when they're at their most peak dangerous, being as dangerous as possible, is when they have 2 solid tight ends. And that's why they brought in Martellus Bennett, and that's why they're bringing in Dwayne Allen. He slides right into that same spot that Martellus Bennett had as that number 2 tight end. And being a number 2 tight end in most places is not necessarily where you want to be. New England's number 2 tight end most times will a lot of times outperform most tight ends in the NFL. He's a perfect fit. I think he fits in well to the Belichick system. I think they made a good move, which, New England always makes a great move. So, in this particular case, the rich just got even richer. Now, I'm going to go with my number 6 spot. This one I think is going to surprise a lot of people because it deals with an older player, but I think this player is going to have a lot of impact. And that's my number 6 player is Denver Broncos signing Jamaal Charles. Jamaal Charles is now 30. He's had some injuries, and last year they went with C.J. Anderson. They tried to get their running game going, but it just wasn't a factor. Gone are the days of Jamaal Charles being the best back in the NFL. But when you're in Denver and you have that defense, it doesn't have to be that he doesn't have to be the best running back in the NFL. He can be that guy, that first down or even that third down back who helps moves the chains. Give him a lighter workload where he can rest a little bit more in between snaps. Move the chains, goal line situations. I think he's that perfect guy to really, bolster an offense that really needs help. Last year, Denver was all defense and very little offense. I think adding Charles is a guy that can really help them out. A lot of ball control, moving the chains. It's a good move, and that's the reason why I have the signing of Jamaal Charles as my number 6 best offseason move. Now, when we come back, we're gonna finish up our list here. We're gonna go 1 through 5. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Okay, so we're going through and we're talking about the best off-season moves from the off-season for the NFL season here that's coming up, and how they will impact your team and your fantasy football team as well. Once again, I'm going to give you a recap of my list. Number 15, I had Danny Woodhead going to the Baltimore Ravens. That's going to be that's a division that can be won, and I think Woodhead's that running back that can catch the ball out of the backfield that can really make an impact. Number 14, you have Minnesota losing Adrian Peterson, but bringing in Latavius Murray and drafting a running back and Cook as well. You have Chicago bringing in Markus Wheaton. Number 12, this is a move that I really, really like. You got Jameis Winston, and they went out, and they have Mike Evans on one side, and they went out and got a speedster, DeSean Jackson, a move that's going to put them over the top and get them into the playoffs and make them seriously contend. Having two main weapons like they have, this is going to be the year where I think Jameis Winston's really going to be a breakout star. Number 11 is the Washington Redskins stealing Terrelle Pryor from Cleveland. Terrelle Pryor was on an island in Cleveland where he was putting up amazing numbers and looking fantastic, but he was doing it for a losing team with a losing effort. Now he gets to go to a team with a huge upgrade in quarterback, on a playoff contending team, and on a team that you don't have to, he's not going to be doubled and tripled. He's gonna have a little more free will on the field to really make a serious impact. I really love him with the Washington Redskins, especially when you're dealing with that NFC East, and that's going to be a division where there's some high-powered offenses, and the arms race has started, and Terrelle Pryor is a big part of that. My number 10 best move is the Seahawks signing Eddie Lacy. If they're not going to have Marshawn Lynch, they need a big bruiser like Eddie Lacy. Thomas Rhodes and C.J. Posey was not able to in my opinion, was not able to fill the gap that losing Marshawn Lynch was, last year. So this year, going out and getting Eddie Lacy is a guy that can really make an impact. They're my favorite to win that NFC West. The NFC West has really made a slide where right now I got San Francisco at the bottom, followed by, in third place, the Rams, the Cardinals, but at the top, winning that division, I got Seattle. Green Bay, losing Eddie Lacy, but that's not a big loss for Green Bay. But Green Bay picking up Martellus Bennett as a go-to tight end for Aaron Rodgers is going to make a major impact, and I love that move. The Philadelphia, with their young quarterback, who showed a lot of signs of being a good pick, a really solid pick, bringing in some weapons for him and bringing in Alshon Jeffries. Great move. Number 7, I keep saying this, the rich gets richer, as New England loses Martellus Bennett, but they still go out and get them a number 2 tight end that can work with Gronk and really move the chains. And everybody knows New England with two solid tight ends makes them incredibly dangerous. Also, with the fact that Gronk has had some injuries in previous years, having a solid backup is a big move to make sure they can keep the ball rolling. Speaking of keeping the ball rolling, my number 6 move was Jamaal Charles. Jamaal may not be the same guy he was in Kansas City, but he can make a big impact on a team that has a really solid defense and is looking to have a ball control offense. A guy who can get you first downs and keep the clock rolling, and can be used on the goal line. I really like this move, and I look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do with that team. Now, we're going to go to our top 5 moves of the offseason. And the first one, I'm going back to Baltimore, where they brought in Danny Woodhead as kind of that receiving running back. Well, another compliment to that passing game is they went out and they got Jeremy Maclin. This is bolstering Baltimore's offense, because as the defense has gotten older, they're giving up a lot more points. They need to put up more points. Jeremy Maclin is that guy that every defense must respect. He's a threat at any point and anywhere on the field. He's a perfect fit for this team, and it really is gearing them up to make a run at the playoffs. When you look at Baltimore and you look at that AFC Central, right now, if I were looking at the moves, I still got Pittsburgh in first place, and I got a dogfight between Baltimore and Cincinnati for that second spot. Cleveland, I think Cleveland's made some really good moves in the offseason the last couple years, but the cupboard was so bare that they're a few years away from even talking about, any move outside of the basement of that division. So I think they're making, by them going to get Jeremy Maclin, it makes that offense a much stronger, very different offense, because it looks like it's going to be a little bit more pass happy or a pass heavy offense, bringing in Woodhead and Jeremy Maclin. I love the combination and the move, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I'm going to move on, and as I was saying before, when you're looking around and you say, looking at teams and once again, rich getting richer, the wide receiver Brandin Cooks going to New England. This could be my number 1 move. The reason why I don't make it my number 1 move is the fact that, Brady spreads the ball around so much. He has 2 solid tight ends. He's going to have a solid running game. Everything's going to get spread around. New England is New England. They're a perennial Super Bowl contender. They're defending champions. They're going to contend. He's just that guy that's going to help them really get to that next level, where they're actually trying to get to the Super Bowl for back-to-back years. And I think he's that move that can actually get them there. They're my favorite right now to win it all. And that is my number 4 pickup, which, like I said, could be arguably the number 1 pickup. I'm going to go with a guy who has been with New England for a long time. My number 3 pickup is the Philadelphia Eagles signing LeGarrette Blount. I think this was a really smart move by Philadelphia. I know they had Darren Sproles and Ryan Matthews, but LeGarrette Blount is that guy that can take the ball and just pound it down your throat and really just keep moving the chains and wearing defenses out. He's that guy that can really make a serious impact. He's that guy on the goal line that's going to get you. He's that touchdown vulture that's going to give it the turn around, hand it to LeGarrette, and he's just go up the middle. He is that guy that can score and move the chains. He's perfect. I think the city of Philadelphia is going to really embrace him, and so he is my number 3 best pickup. Originally, I actually moved him as high as number 2 at one point. That's how much I think this pickup is, how important this pickup is for the Philadelphia Eagles. The reason why I made it number 3 is the fact that, once again, they're in that really tough division in the NFC East with the Cowboys. And the Cowboys, everyone knows about Dak and Ezekiel and Wheaton. And Daz. There's just too much there. And then you look around and you move to and when you look at my number 2 pick, you look at the New York Giants and they're picking up Brandin Marshall. That is just going to be just a little too much for Philadelphia. But my number 2 best pickup that I look at was actually, I actually had it tied for number 2. I had the Giants picking up Brandin Marshall. I think having a veteran presence with Odell Beckham Jr., someone that can maybe calm him down and keep his head in the game. He's that guy that Brandin Marshall has seen it all. He's done all of that. He's been that guy who, has done some controversial things, and it's kind of, he can help Odell not make the same mistakes he's made. He's that perfect number 2 guy where if you're not doubling Brandin Marshall will kill you. And there's no way with Odell Beckham Jr. on the field that any team is going to double Brandin Marshall, which makes Brandin Marshall, I think, going to have a breakout year. I think he could be that comeback player of the year kind of guy where he, the Jets weren't really using him last year that well. This year, I think Eli and company will definitely use and target Brandin Marshall. So I think that's my number 2 move, and that was tied with my other number 2 move, which is kind of like sliding in 2 extra ones. My number 2 overall move was the New Orleans Saints signing Adrian Peterson. You can never, ever count out Adrian Peterson. Injury or not, Adrian Peterson is a freak of nature, and he has proven that time and time again. Now he's on a team where he doesn't have to be the star. He doesn't have to be, give it to Adrian Peterson or we're going to lose. Drew Brees, he has Drew Brees, a guy that can spread the ball around where you have to respect the offense. You can't just load up in the box. And if you're not loading up in the box, then Adrian Peterson will kill you. If you do load up in the box, Drew Brees will kill you. Pick your poison. This is going to be a very, very dangerous offense. I know that Adrian Peterson is a little older, but Adrian has not showed me anything that he's slowing down. Most running backs that have had the mileage that he has, I would say stay away from him. Not Adrian Peterson. I think this is going to be a breakout year for Adrian Peterson. That's why I have him as my number 2 best pick in the offseason. And with the fact that he's not going to have to carry the load every single play. A rested Adrian Peterson is a dangerous Adrian Peterson. I love that pickup. I think it makes it so that New Orleans is back contending for a playoff spot. That's how much I see it as an impactful move. And the number one move of the offseason is the Oakland Raiders trading for Marshawn Lynch. First off, Marshawn is an Oakland guy, and he gets to go back home and play for his home team, the team that he loved. He's excited. Having that extra year from coming out of retirement, he was in, taking an entire year off to get a, kind of rest up. A lot of people kind of discount when a running back hasn't been playing for a while, but I look at it as a plus. It gives his body a chance to truly heal up and, come back fresh. And I think Marshawn Lynch is that guy at age 30 will come back super strong, super tough. They got a rock star quarterback. They were if possibly the best team in the AFC at one point in time. So I think this is the move, by having that running back that can get them those goal line scores, going beast mode on the goal line, going beast mode on third and short, and then having Carr, pick your defense apart. This is a move that puts Oakland in a place where they're trying to contend not just for the division, but for a Super Bowl. And so I really love that move. That is my number one pick of the offseason. And with that, I'm going to recap it one more time, and then I'll let you guys go. And I'll go down. Number one is Marshawn Lynch to the Oakland Raiders. As I said before, that's one of those moves that can really change the game. Adrian Peterson, number two, going to the New Orleans Saints. Tied for number two is Brandin Marshall, pairing up with Odell Beckham Jr. and Eli Manning in New York. I got LeGarrette Blount going to Philadelphia as my number three. The trade for Brandon Cooks for New England, I think that's a fantastic move. Baltimore going out and getting Jeremy Maclin to bolster that offense is another move that I really like. Jamaal Charles, let's see, does Jamaal Charles still have some tread on him? I think he does. I think he's a perfect fit to help out an offense that really needed help in Denver. Number 7 is New England, losing Martellus Bennett, but going out and getting Dwayne Allen, a very consistent tight end that will work well with Gronk and Tom Brady. Number 8 is Alshon Jeffries going to Philadelphia, working with Carson Wentz to make him move him a little bit further in his progression. Great pickup for having a young quarterback. Green Bay signing Martellus Bennett. That's a move where, you got Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers knows how to find his weapons. Martellus Bennett is one of those weapons. He will be a big factor. Seattle going out and getting Eddie Lacy. The one thing that Seattle was missing last year was a big, strong running back. And I think Eddie Lacy fills that bill for them. Number 11, Terrelle Pryor. Set the league on fire last year, but no one knew about it because he was playing in Cleveland. Now he gets to play for a playoff contending team with the Washington Redskins. Number 12 is Tampa Bay and Jameis Winston, adding another weapon on the other side of of Mike Evans, adding DeSean Jackson, a speedster, someone that can throw the ball downfield. It's a perfect fit to making Jameis Winston go to that next level. The Bears picking up Markus Wheaton. The Bears are not going to be really a playoff contending team, but Wheaton's that guy that you could draft late in your fantasy football draft and can make an impact. Minnesota picking up Latavius Murray, losing Adrian Peterson, but picking up Latavius Murray and drafting Cook, I think is just a a good move on their part. Baltimore, and then the final capping things off was Baltimore picking up Danny Woodhead. That's my top 15 offseason moves. There's a few others that I considered. When you look around at, let's see, New Orleans signing Ted Ginn Jr. I think that was a good move. The Bears, Mike Lennon. I don't know if they're going to really give. I don't know if Glennon's really going to have a fair shot at that. Buffalo picking up Holmes. Brian Hoyer going to San Francisco. Josh McCown going to the Jets. Torrey Smith going to Philadelphia. That's a good pickup, and almost made my list. Minnesota, and Miami picking up Julius Thomas. That was someone that almost made the list as well as a good pickup. Those are my additional moves that I thought were good. And with that, this concludes our episode of Best Offseason Moves. Thank you for tuning in, and to all, a good night.